Okay, now this assignment, I'm going to start off with a problem that you're familiar with, okay? We did it first semester. It says one pump can fill one tank of oil in 4 hours. The second pump fills one tank of oil in 3 hours. If both pumps are used at the same time, how long they take to fill the tank, okay? Okay, so we got two units, tanks and hours. So X is hours, Y is tanks. So per the rate of change, the tanks per hour at this point is unknown. Okay, we know there's a constant rate. Okay, because each tank it would fill. You have two different tanks, but when you fill a tank with gas, it goes to a constant rate. Now, I'm not really going to need to concern myself with the rate of change because if you think about it, X being 0, that means 0 hours. Well, if you don't pump for any hours, you're not going to get any tanks done, okay? So this then is a direct variation. That means it's proportional, okay? So when it's proportional, I'm going to set up my proportions, okay? Now we got the two tanks pumping together, but then when they pump separate, okay? So we need to put our X unit, our independent variable, on bottom. So the hours have to go on bottom, and then the tanks go on top. Okay, so we know what we can do. The first pump, one pump can do one tank in 4 hours, okay? The second pump can do one tank in 3 hours. Now, I don't see how many tanks there are, so I assume then it still pumps one tank, okay? They're just going to do it together, and I'm trying to find the hours it would take them to do it, so that would be X, okay? Okay, now this one's an easy one. I know there are 3 ratios, but the X is all the way over here, so I can simply add. I can simplify the equation by adding a fourth plus a third on my calculator, okay? And that's 7 over 12. So it's 7 over 12 equals 1 over X. And we can just cross multiply and divide. 12 times 1 is 12. 12 divided by 7 is 1.7. Again, if X has no operations like a plus or minus, we can just find the multiply, divide. So that is going to be 1.7, okay? Now, that's pretty easy, but now it gets a little bit more complex, okay? Okay, you can stuff envelopes twice as fast as your friend. Remember that information, twice. However, you can together you can stuff 6,750 envelopes in 4.5 hours. How long would it take each of you working alone to complete the job? So here I want to know how long it's going to take together. Well, now we backtrack it. We got to find if we're working separately. Okay, so it's the same idea. We've got 2 units, envelopes and hours. Hours is X, envelopes Y. So per envelopes per hour. Now again, the rate of change I don't know. And I really don't need to be concerned that much about it because without any hours we can't get any envelope stuff. So this is proportional. There's direct variation. So I do the same thing. Okay, we got me and my friend added together and then we work together. Now, again, it's important we put our X unit on bottom, okay? Just put H. It's not an H variable. It's an H label. And then EN, EN, EN. Now, this time, what they give me, the information they give me is what we can do together, okay? So 6,750 goes here, and then 4.5 goes here, okay? Now, if we were working separately, we'd still have to stuff 6,750 envelopes. So both of these numerators have 6,750. Now, what do we do with the hours? Do we just put X for each of them? Well, we do at the beginning, but one person can work twice as fast as the other, okay? Now, that's not plus 2, though. Twice as fast is times 2, okay? That's what twice means. Now, this isn't quite as slick as the last one because I can't add these together because they're x variables here. And not only that, the bottoms aren't the same, so the calculator's not going to pick that up. Okay, so what I do, I'm dealing with 3 ratios. I space out my ratios, and then I have to find the lowest common denominator. I'm going to actually, on a story problem, I like to do my LCD up here. So on top, okay, we just keep the tops the same when finding the LCDs, okay? I don't need to worry about those. I don't need to worry about factoring them, okay? Now on bottom, we have a 2 times x. There's no plus or minus there, though, so I don't need a parentheses. So it's just 2. I can just drop down what I have. Same with this, and the same with 4.5. Remember, that's a decimal, not 4 times 5. Okay, now it's time to find the LCD because we want to cross out the bottoms, and we can't do that until the bottoms all have the exact same thing. So what do I have for my LCD? Well, I have an outer 2. I don't have any parentheses. An outer x. Another outer x, which I already know I have that. And then outer 4.5. So it's all outer factors. So outer 2, that has 1, that has 0, that has 0. So I need to get everything up to 1. Okay, so these two need to 2. So I times 2, times 2, times 2, times 2. It doesn't matter where you times 2, from the front or behind. It doesn't matter. Okay, now outer x, I have 1, 1, and 0. So I think with the 0, we're going to need to put an x right here. Okay, now outer 4.5, I have 0, 0, and then 1. Okay, so everything needs one factor of 4.5, so I need to times 4.5, times 4.5, times 4.5, and times 4.5. Now the bottoms are all the same. Okay, each contains a 2. They might be out of order, but that's fine. Multiplication's commutative. The order doesn't matter. Okay, so now that these all have the same factors, the LCD has been found, so I can now cancel it. And now I have an equation, but this equation is very easy to solve. Okay, look at your first ratio. You're going to take 6,750 times 4.5. Okay, I get 30,375. Plus, you shouldn't need math, Papa. You can use it if you want, but I mean, this is pretty easy. Then I take 6,750 times 2 times 4.5. 60,750. Now on the other side of the equation, I take 6,750 times 2, 13,500, but then I connect an x onto the 13,500 because there was an x factor there. Okay, now I add these because they're on the same side. My x is here, but that's just waiting to be divided by 13,500. Well, I need to add these here then. So 30,375 plus 60,750, 91,125. And then divide both sides by 13,500, and I have one of the two answers. The second answer is really easy to find. Okay, so I divide those two. 6.75. Now that's the faster guy. Well, you know it takes the other guy twice as long. Remember that. Okay, so because you know this is 6.75. Well, here I'll just take 2 times 6.75. Okay, so 6.75 multiplied by 2 is 13.5. So that's how many hours it takes them to finish a job if they had to do all 6,750 separately. Okay, next one. I'm going to do 2 more. Together, you and a friend can type 50 pages of a report in 3 hours. You can type twice as fast as your friend. How long will it take to complete the job alone? Okay, so the units are hours and pages. X is hours, pages is Y. So the rate of change would be labeled pages per hour. Now, I don't really know that right now, but I don't need to concern myself with that because there is a pages per hour. Okay, we assume they read at a constant rate. But I don't really need to know that because if we don't read for any hours, there's no reason that I need to find that there can't be any pages. So it's proportional. Okay, but instead of just 2 ratios, we need 2 on each side. Right here. So what it tells me is they can read 50 pages in 3 hours, but that's together, you and a friend. Okay, remember to put your hours on bottom, 53, because it's pages per hour. You can't flip them or this is fail. Now to complete the job alone, they'd still have to type 50 pages. If the other friend just wasn't there or whatever, they'd still do. Now the times it takes us to do them, that's what's unknown. Okay. But there is that little piece of information that one person can do twice as fast as the other. So I just take one of the X's. It doesn't matter which one because they both have 50s above. It's not like they're different. You need to just multiply that X by 2. Okay, so now, because I can't do the ABC because there are 3 ratios, I need to set up 3 new ones and come up with an LCD. Now, the tops, when I do the LCD, the tops I can just drop down. It doesn't matter if they are parenthesized. I don't worry about the tops. And the bottom I'm just going to drop down 2 because there's no plus there, so I can just drop 2 times X down. There's no plus there, I just drop X down, no plus or minus there. It's when I have X, it's when I have plus and minus within the denominator, I have to go to a scratch paper and try to factor it and rewrite the expression, but that's not going to be a problem on this assignment. Okay, so again, LCD, we have outer 2, outer X, and outer 3. There's another outer X, but I don't need to write that down twice. Outer 2, I have 1 factor there, 0, 0. Okay, so everything needs 1, so we need to multiply by 2, and multiply by 2, multiply by 2, multiply by 2. Now everything has 1 factor of 2. Outer X, I have 1 factor here, 1 factor here, none here, so that means the one with none, I'm going to have to multiply by a factor of X. Now outer 3, I have none, none, 1. So that means the first 2 I need to bring an outer factor of 3 in, and now the denominators are all the same. So on an equation, that means I can just forget. Okay, now you can math pop if you want. It's kind of a waste of time. 50 times 3 is 150, because these are not hard products to find. 50 times 2 is 100. 100 times 3 then would be 300. Then 50 times 2 is 100, but I need to remember to connect the X factor to the 100. So I just add here and then divide that sum by 100. So that's 450 equals 100X. Divide by 100, divide by 100. And 450 divided by 100 is 4.5. So 4.5 hours. Now remember, so this guy here is 4.5. The other one, we take our 4.5 times 2. It's clear as day. Okay? That's 9. So the hours separately would be 4.5 for the fast one and 9 for the slow one. Because when it takes you more time, you're slower. Okay, last one. Working together, you and a friend can paint 4 houses in 6 hours. If your friend paints twice as long as you do, how long will it take you 2? That should be 2. To paint the 4 houses working separately. So we have houses and hours. So X is hours, Y is houses. Now the rate of change, we're going to assume it's constant because we'll say we paint. Painting's kind of a monotonous job. I'd kind of do the same thing unless, assume you don't get tired. So it's a constant. It would be a linear relationship because you would be doing the same step every time. But I don't need to worry about finding the number of houses because I know it's 0. If you don't do any work, you don't get anything done. Okay, so proportional, but there's the separate ratios, and those add up to the together ratio. So hours, remember the time has to go on bottom, so you know what they can do together. 4 houses, 6 hours. You got to put the time in the denominator. It can't be 6 over 4. Now, if they're working separately, they'd still have 4 houses to paint. Okay, but we don't know the times it would take to do them, but we do know one added factor, that one can go twice as fast as the other. So we need to, don't add 2, okay? You would multiply one of the x's by 2. Okay, so again, now it's 3 ratios, okay? So with 3, we can't use the slick ABCD. We have to do the LCD with the 3 new ones, okay? So 4, 4, 4. Now, bottom, there would be no parentheses applied to any of these because there's no plus or minus. So I just drop everything down, and then I figure the LCD out. Okay, we have outer 2, outer x, outer 6. Okay, so outer 2, I got 1, 0, 0. There is a way to do it, outer 2, outer 6, kind of combine the two. I don't really do it that way, and it's kind of confusing. You have to be kind of a slick person to know that. So we need to get these so they have 1. So I multiply by a 2, multiply by a 2, and now everything has 1, 2 on the bottom. Outer x, I got 1, 1, 0. Okay. So I'm going to need to multiply by an x here, and now everything has an x in the denominator. Now outer 6, I have 0, I don't have any, and I have 1. Okay, so we need to raise these up by a factor of 6. And now everything on the bottom can be the same. Now some of you are like, oh, it's 12x. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The bottom's gone. Okay, 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. Now over here, 4 times 2 is 8, and then multiplied by x would be 8x. So I add these, that makes 72. Then I divide both sides by 8, and 72 divided by 8 is 9. Okay. So we know it would take that guy 9 hours. The other guy would take 9 times 2, which is 18. Okay.